Hi, I'm Brett Ullman. Welcome to Navigating Everything, the channel where I try and help you navigate tough topics like parenting, mental health, being a better man, and many other topics. Today I want to talk about the topic of resiliency. And the truth is looking at how we as parents can build resiliency in our children. First, I think we better define what we're even talking about. If you just Google a definition of resiliency, it will say this: the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, kind of a toughness. It's kind of like something happens in life and it knocks you down and you're able to get up. It also says the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape, elasticity. I kind of like that analogy, sort of like a ball. It gets pushed in and then it pops back out. But in real life, resiliency is not like the popping back. It's not that simple. Maybe sometimes, but not always. There is a great quote from Katie Hurley in an article on everydayhealth.com that says this: resilience is not a trampoline where you're down one moment and then up the next. It's more like climbing a mountain without a trail map. It takes time, strength, and help from people around you, and you'll likely experience setbacks along the way. But eventually, you reach the top and look back at how far you've come. I love that. I will link the article in the description below. Being able to cope with the ups and the downs of life, being adaptable, getting up when you fall down, maybe getting knocked down less. There's so many ways we can use to describe this conversation, but you get my point. This is a really important conversation. Now, one thought, I do think today that we are very fragile and really easily broken as a society, especially our students. As I say that, I also wonder if it's not just our students, but also a lot of us. I do think that kids today are often socialized to think that they are fragile people. How do we as parents play a role in this? And this leads us into today's topic. How do we as parents play a role in the teaching of resiliency in our kids' lives? As parents, we work sometimes really hard at trying to make our kids' lives as comfortable as possible. The problem is that this is not how normal life works. Life is not always easy. Life is not fair. Life and situations and people will knock you down from time to time. So here are 10 ways we can grow resilience and help grow resilience in the lives of our children. And most of these things will also work in our lives as adults as well. Number one, reframing, sometimes also called changing the narrative. Focus on the things you can change, not the things you cannot. We can work to help our kids reframe their thinking. We have had to do this with both my daughter Zoe and my son Ben in this COVID season. My daughter Zoe was in grade 12 and lost her prom, her grad, her last part of high school. It was all just gone. She then got accepted to a university called Western, and then all classes went online. Now, we as parents could either spend all of our time talking about how this all really sucks and there's so much loss, etc., which there is, but instead we try to continually shift her thinking. She gets a chance to experience residence even though it's not the experience she wanted. She gets a chance to be at university even though the classes are not running and she has to do the work in her residence. There is great food at the residence and she gets a chance to study in different buildings each day. A few days ago, the gym's opened for her and she's now getting a chance to work out in different places. Do you see the flip? The same came with my son. He is currently in his senior year of grade 12. We acknowledge the loss of his senior year. He misses being on the volleyball team this year and other things, but we try and reframe the conversation. He gets to go to school a few days a week. We're thankful for his ongoing lifeguarding job. This is shifting our attention to things that are good. I think this kind of talk gives kids a better chance to say, I can do this. I can handle this. We will get through this. Number two, have a strong support network. Build and help build rich relationships with family, other adults, and friends. As parents, you cannot be the only adults building into your kids' lives. Encourage your kids anytime they can to talk to other adults, family, friends, coaches, church leaders, teachers, you name it. Encourage their friendships as well in any way you can. During the spring and summer, with all the restrictions we had with COVID, you were still allowed to be outside. So we have an outdoor natural gas fireplace and we set up 4 chairs around it and encouraged our kids to have friends over. Some of these things take leadership from us as adults. Number 3, gain perspective. When bad things happen, we need to teach our kids to step away and think through this. I usually suggest going for a walk. I find that kind of changes your mindset. But the author Robert Munsch, who wrote the book Everything I Learned in Kindergarten, I Google it, really great kind of quote. He said this in another book. I'm going to paraphrase, but basically he says this: is what's going on an inconvenience or is it a problem? Anytime something suddenly happens, take a step back. Is it really a frustrating inconvenience, or is it actually a problem? And even if it is a problem, it's something we can walk through. Even my new book, when I brought it out, Parenting, Navigating Everything, I spent 3 years working on it. It's this massive handbook for parents, 226,000 words, biggest project of my life. On the YouTube video where I showcase it, and I'll kind of screenshot it above, 4 people disliked it. Inconvenience or a problem? Is it frustrating? Yes, but it's not like my book has sold no copies. It's not like I have 1-star reviews on Amazon. They're all 5-star. It's an inconvenience. I can't dwell on it, and I have to move forward. Now, there's another conversation there on just social media and some of its negative things that we see, but another conversation for another day. Number 4, overparenting does not allow kids to mentally toughen up. When we overfunction, our kids underfunction. Life will always bring things we did not expect. We need to teach kids and ourselves that we are stronger than we think. If every time a situation arises, we rush in to fix things, our kids will never learn how to overcome. If every time in September when your younger kids find out that they're not in a class with their best friend and you rush in to talk to the principal to demand that they're together, what are you teaching your kids? That they can't survive without their best friend? Sure they can. If every time they have a friend issue and you call the other parent and try to fix it as adults, you take away the chance for your kids to learn how to navigate dynamics of friendships. Number 5, it's okay to fail. Numerous things I have done in my speaking career failed miserably. Failing's part of life. I've put up websites and talks and online courses and other things that have just failed. Does it suck? Yes. But if something does not work, then take it as a learning experience and move on. We need to almost embrace failure. Kids need to see and hear of the things that we have failed. We found in our house that a great way to teach failure, and I know that sounds kind of weird, but we played board games, just regular board games. Everyone does not win at a board game, and they have to learn that it's okay not to win. Don't eliminate all the risks in your kid's life. I've heard of parents who have a 12-year-old kid who can't ride a bike because their parents are so scared they might fall off, they don't allow them to learn. We also call this Humpty Dumpty parenting. It's a parenting style. You're so worried your kid will, like Humpty, will fall off the wall and break and you won't be able to put the kid back together again. That's just fearful parenting, fear-based parenting. We don't even give the kids a chance to fail because our fears we put on them and then they become fearful. We see this today with less kids getting their license because often some parents are so scared of their kids driving, they only talk negatively about it. We have a van, there's lots of traffic. Well, then the kid thinks that they can't drive if there's a van and lots of traffic. They can overcome these things. Kids who will not go away to university or college because their parents could not bear to be away from them for a short period of time, and then our kids think that they can't survive away from their parents. We need to make sure that we're not putting our fears on our kids. Number 6 is building capacity in our kids. Let them carry their own backpack, make their own lunch, do their own laundry. I did a series on things you need to teach your kids before they're 18. Talking to adults, learning how to do public transit, cooking, getting their license, laundry, basic things. Teach them how to do these things. Give them the little wins they need for success. Number 7, self-care. Teach our kids self-care, things like sleep, diet, exercise. You'll be much more prepared to rebound from things that happen in your life if you're starting from a good place, a place of health and wellness. So encourage health and wellness in the lives of your kids. I really like the book, The Ripple Effect. I like it so much I actually paid my kids $20 each to read it. The learning is so important in my mind, I'm willing to give a little incentive to do it. These are all life skills that they'll learn and then use for the rest of their lives. Number 8, teach kids how to manage their emotions, emotional regulation, emotional IQ, lots of terms here. We model healthy emotional management in our own lives for our kids to see. We talk about how we handle emotions as adults. Rather than going into detail here, I want you to watch an episode of the podcast I really like called The Broken Brain by Drew Pruitt. He interviews Jennifer Colleri, who really goes into great depth into this conversation of dealing with our kids' emotions. I would rather you just look at it. I will tag it above. Number 9, set small, achievable goals. We want our kids to experience success, so set realistic goals. Have you ever seen this with other adults? Someone says, I'm going to run a 10K. They have never run before. They don't even have good running shoes. Then they head out and run a few times. Their body responds with soreness, maybe an injury, and they give up. If you want to run a 10K, start with walking 1K, and then maybe running 1K, and then running 1K, and then walking another 1K. And if you're American, put miles into that if you want. But you get my point. Create habits that will lead you to success. I posted a YouTube video about my favorite books about change theory and habits. I'll tag it above. The book Atomic Habits by James Clear is one that I'm also going to be paying my kids to read this year. Just a book so packed with goodness, I don't mind a little incentive for them to read it. You can find the links to those books in the description of the video. And number 10, attachment. Have it with your kids. In books like The Collapse of Parenting by Leonard Sachs, Hold On to Your Kids by Gordon Neufeld and Gabor Mate, they talk about the idea of attachment. We want our kids to attach to us before they go attach to their peers. The problem today is peer attachment, where kids are looking for unconditional love and acceptance from their peers, and for the most part, their peers and friends cannot give that to each other. So what we do is we create a home where they are loved unconditionally, not just because they get good marks in school or follow our rules, but a place where they know that they are loved. I say to my kids a lot, I am for you, I'm not against you. The goal being that our kids have this home base that they can branch off of, knowing they can always come back to an environment where they're accepted unconditionally. Attach to your kids, then have them attached to the world. I could go on with many more. I think these 10 are good for today. Life is about change. We need to teach our kids to learn how to be able to handle change each day. Each year, our kids move up a grade, classes change, they get older, they might get jobs, they might break up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, they might get fired or laid off from those jobs, change university, college programs, the list goes on. They can overcome all of these things. We in our homes need to prepare them so that they can have resiliency in their lives to overcome anything. We also have to model this for our kids. So I would encourage you to look at these 10 things through the lens of you as the parent. How are we doing with resiliency in our own lives? One last thought. If there are times when we are not able to overcome, that's okay. If we are like that ball pushing in and not coming back, if after some time it's not, seek professional help. It's okay for your kids to go see a counselor if they're overwhelmed. My kids have known for their whole life that they are welcome to sit down with a counselor/therapist to get another voice speaking truth into their life. It's just another tool in their toolbox. Parents, my challenge to you, take some leadership and look at how you can help your kids in the area of resiliency. I'd love to hear how you're doing this in your own home. I'll talk to you soon.